Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today we are going to create FastAPI web app with authentication, and we will learn more about application structure, some things like models, routes, and in this time we don't have any controller name. We will use repository because we are going to create PostgreSQL database, and we will create FastAPI CRUD, some things like post, get, update, and delete. In this tutorial, we will work a little with the session, and I will show you how we can register authorization user, how can create a new account, and some things like login, and some things else. And we are going to do some things interesting work. We want to verify email authentication. That means after sign up, user should be log in your mail and verify your mail to be actually to be active, or to be allowed to log in website. And for template, we will use JWT template for our front end side, and we will create and configure static files for front end, some custom CSS, JS, and some things else. Okay, now let's just start. Now from terminal, I'm going to cd dev folder, or just from here, and let's to create a new directory. I name it FastAPI web, for example, web app, and let's code cd FastAPI web app. Okay, now from here let's to start my Visual Studio Code. Okay, as you can see, we are empty project. Actually, let me to do something else this time. I just wanted to use PyChar. Now I don't know, maybe it should be interesting because I always create a project from Visual Studio Code. Let's this time create PyChar code open, and of course we want to open FastAPI web app. Okay, trust this. We will trust this project. Now as you can see, we have just empty file and iterative listen available. Okay, thank you, don't show again, close. Okay, now from here, and actually if you want you can use Visual Studio Code, but this time I just decided to create with PyChar. Okay, now as you can see, we have just empty folder, and before we are starting we need to create a virtual environment. If you are use Windows or anything any other operation system, it's important to install Python. To actually this environment allow us to configure and install our package manager. Now let's to create a package manager from here by just typing, for example, Python 3 -m virtual environment package manager. I give it the same name, but if you want you can select another name. As you can see, create virtual environment, just empty virtual environment from here. And the second step is to connect to virtual environment from here, the name of virtual environment and the bean, and should be active. Now as you can see, our virtual environment is active and this is ready to install our package manager that we need for our project. I'm going to type pip install FastAPI, of course, for our project. And okay, I need to update. Let's update this command. And the second step is to pip install UV core. Yeah, actually UV core is work for us. Something like web service like Nginx or something other web service, but in this time allow us to run Python or Python CMS code on web browser. Okay, after I install UV core, okay, UV core is installed successfully. If I do pip list, we can see list of our package manager, and we have just installed UV core and FastAPI, but as you can see there are more any other packages because they are dependency on FastAPI or on UV core and should be should be installed automatically. Okay, now after that let's from here create the file. I name it main.py, but outside, of course, outside virtual environment. Okay, let me to yes, deleted. Now from here main.py or root.py is completely depend to you what you want. Okay, now let's do from FastAPI. We want to import FastAPI class, and the second step is to create an instance of our FastAPI class. We have FastAPI class. App is our it's the instance of the FastAPI class. We can open this class, and as you can see, there are more property or methods. And if you're using or you're interested to know more or learn more about our classes, you can open this class and show which abilities is what's actually available for you to use that. And the second step, I want to create our first endpoint by typing the name of our instant app dot get, and from here just I create a new method. I give them name main or as a default root, but this time I have a main name. From here my first or my starter project, I give the same name, but it's completely depend to you. It's not matter what you want. And FastAPI, and what I need, maybe request from request, and this request come from here, or just let to return ticked, and return from here just message and the message should be, for example, welcome to FastAPI. And the second step, I'm going to do something else. I'm going to import UV core. That will be our web service. And just again, if just do a name, for example, do a name something like this. Okay, great. And equals main method or runner. Okay, if name equals main, then we want to call a UV core class, and from UV core class I'm going to call run method. As you can see, run method accept more parameter. App should be the name of our app, this app, that's the instance of FastAPI, and the host, will be the host that we want to run our project. In this time we will run locally. That should be, we can write localhost, and the port that we want to use, and something is loop, that means they allow us to run, and it's something like reload our project every time, that we be sure we have access to current data, or actually it's synchronize something like this, that project. And now from run, the name of our main, this main actually is the name of our this file. From here python.py, or this current pay, and now app, and the second is the host name, and this time as a default I want to type 000. That should be our local host, and port, in my case I prefer to use port 8080, and reload should be true. Okay, looks good. Now let's run our project by typing just python main.py. As you can see, it will be should working, and we have just green information about ports and files. Now let's do run localhost port 8080. As you can see, we have the first message, welcome to FastAPI, and the second, if I open docs, you can see the main method. We have the main method from here. This main method, we call this endpoint with the main method name, and the method is a get as a default, and we have a get. Actually this get should be the main file, and return as well, welcome to FastAPI. If I run local from here, FastAPI is the same way. Okay, great. Now this next step is to create the structure of our project. I'm going to create a directory. The first directory should be our routes, or just API is completely different to you. If you want to use route name or API name, I prefer to use API. And again, okay, again from here, I don't know if there any shortcut for create a folder directory. Okay, then I need a database directory. Okay, no, actually it's not. Okay, no problem. Now the second step is models, our models, and maybe for our schema, what we need else, we need our controller, but in this case we as the same, we as API or routes or controller or repository is completely depend to you what you want to use, but repository actually is our controller and API is our routes. If you want, you can change the name what you want. And now I need another folder directory for our security, and maybe another folder for static, and we can do that later. Okay, now let's start by create a model, and from models I create the first model for our user.pay. Okay, great. Now let's create a class. I name it user model, of course. From here, and what's important else, from here I am going to actually we need to define our recorder for our database is the same way. And now from here ID should be our first field, and now let's do column, sorry, and also sorry I forgot to from here from FastAPI import from we are going to use, actually it's two different way, but in this case I'm going to use SQL for PostgreSQL. Actually for PostgreSQL that we need to install another dependency. I'm going just by install pip install. If you want, you can actually find it from here. Of course, you can find SQL Charmy from here, and you can see and read more about this. And these skills actually allow us to connect to SQLite or PostgreSQL, and there are great actually documentation. You can read more if you want, and I can just copy this to be sure I install correct version. I thought I copied that. Okay. Now as you can see, install it here for us. Looks great. And we have use setup.py blah blah blah. Okay, alles klar. Great. Now I'm from here SQL import. What we need to import, we need to import column at this time, and column no, and we need to say this column is the type of column. Actually the type of column is the first parameter, should be string. Okay, great. Sorry, we will want to use ID. ID should be actually integer. We can integer from here, and from here I add it as well. Should be primary. Should be primary key. Just by typing primary key should be true. And index should be true as well. And the second field is email. We want to define email for user. Again, column should be a string, and any q can be true, of course, because it's an email and we don't want to have actually more the same email in our database. And the index should be true, of course. And the third one is username. Again, column should be a string as well, and any key should be true as well. Of course, index allowed to be true. And password, again, okay, column should be a string. Any q should not be, and index again to be true. And what we need is active or not. we need to define another field is active. Help us to, because in this tutorial we want to check if user is active. After sign up we will send a verified mail, and after verify this email is active should be true and allow user to log in this website, in our website. Okay, again column, and should be boolean, and default value, for example, is default value is false because the default user is not active. And some other is role, and for example, suppose you have big website, or you have a website that someone else actually uses. For normal user, you can define a role, you sign it as admin user or just user. We can create enum class as well, and from here role, I will create roles. I will create a class that's the same name, and default value can be user. That means as a default every person has role has username. Okay, great. And the second step, we have our class, and the second step is to define a schema. From here I create our schema, I name it user again .pay. Now from here class user schema, and from base model. Okay, now we need to from Pydantic import base model. This is default model for database, actually structure for our database. We will use Pydantic, and Pydantic is, you don't need to install Pydantic because it will already installed from FastAPI and help us to create a decay structure actually for our PostgreSQL. Now we have email. Actually we can use, if you want, in this schema you can define and validate everything that you want. For example, email validation, or username don't allow me to use number, or for example username should be maximum 10 character, or I don't know. Everything that you want you can define from here, from validation. But in this case I don't want to use validation, but it's pretty easy and you can learn and you can see more about validation. It's just one line code, and you can, if you have some structure for, if you have, you can just define it. But for email we can install another dependency. From here pip install email validator, I think is I'm not sure, but because I think we can call it from Pydantic. Let me to check. Email str, yes, okay. Email str actually is this something is same like, as you can see, it's same like the validation, and this class actually has a validation and should be sure that the user type correct email, actually the correct structure. But if as I said, if you want, you can just define a custom validation. For example, you want anyone that have a Gmail conto allowed to create account or login in your website or something else. You can do all things from here from validation. But at this time I just want to use this email. And the second, we have email, we have username, should be just str, and we have password, should be str as well. Now looks good. If you want, at this time I don't want to create for password is active, for is active and is active. But if you want and role, we can define for a schema here. But because I give a name as a default, they have a default value, but I don't want to define from here from my schema, because all that we are defined here later we can see here actually here. But if we don't have defined anything in our schema, we don't see it here. But I have a default value and we don't want to define a schema. Okay, roles, we have another class. If you want, you can define this roles class as well here, but now if I create class here, it's actually more clean code just. Okay, roles, and from enum that come from FastAPI enum or just from enum, you can import enum. I bring some example that you can see. You can work with all, actually with global enum, as you can see. Sorry, just enum. There are more different way to define a class or define a structured class type, something like enum. You can bring it from FastAPI import enum as well. From here, from SQL, I mean. Okay, now we have that, and now from import now the second step is to define property. I have first property should be user, and user in this case from here, as you can see, it has a default value, and the second is admin. Should be admin, or I don't know, you can have some other things. You can create as you want, as you will for your roles. If you think two different person will allow to log in your website, you can define two or more, anything that you want, actually you can define from here. What's important now, we want to import from a schema. Yes, okay, now it looks great. We have everything, but we need to define some other class. But before we are continue, let me to define something is active. But as I said, as a default, we have a default value, but I just wanted to define it here that you can see every time you are allowed to use this if you want for some things, or role, for example. from class role equals, for example, user. Okay, now in the second, for this class we need to define a config, and ORM is just you don't need to know it. Actually is this default structure for PostgreSQL schema. Okay, great. Now we have our model, we have our schema, and it's time to create we can create our repository from here, or we can create our first we can configure our database. I'm going to give a name, connection, for example, and now from connection is time to define our database. What we need to do at the first, we need a structure for our database. For example, my database connection string okay, should be PostgreSQL now this time the name of our database, and actually the name and the username and password of user from PostgreSQL. If I open PostgreSQL from here, okay, from here, from login and groups, you can see I have this user. If you want, you can define another user. For example, I don't know, something like new user, and you should define a password for new user and privilege. Yes, allowed to logging or allowed to be super user is completely depend to you. And from security or parameter, I think we don't need to do something else because it's already this member. Okay, we can choose it if you want, but at this time as I said, we don't need to do something else. Just privilege and generate the name and the password and create it. And role member, I think I create something. Okay, yes. Okay, now we can create actually our new user, because this field don't allow to be empty. I create this more empty field here. Okay, now I create new user. As you can see, new user is there, and you know you have a user as well and a password. For example, in my case, Mehdi and Mehdi 1 2 3 and at where actually the path of our PostgreSQL, in this case we are called Postgres locally, should be localhost, and the second is the name of our database. I'm going to create a new database for our project. From here, create database, for example, the name of a database, FastAPI DB, and the owner, it should be the new user or this user that we have defined here with password. I give a MIDI for example and security, and this time I say this user allowed to do alls for this database, just for this database, and just create it. And the name of database was FastAPI DB. FastAPI DB. Now the second. Okay. Now let's continue from here, and we create an engine. Actually, the engine is the instant of our connection string. Engine, create engine, create engine. We can, from here we can say from SQL import this method. Actually, create engine method. If you want to know, as I said, you can open it. As you can see, need a URL. URL is this URL is this connection string URL. And now create, as you can see, as a parameter need URL, and this time URL will be our SQL connection screen. Now create engine instance, for example. And the second things, we need to define a session. Actually, this session is we will just in this time we will do alls for our instance or create a connection string for PostgreSQL. We need to work with session. Now from here, just from SQL.org, let's to import session maker. Okay, great. Now we can say our session, for example, factory equals session is session maker, and session maker has a parameter auto commit as a default. We don't need to commit. This commit should be actually something like save in database, but as a default we want to define a false. And auto flash should be false as a default, because we can check in our controller. Later I will show you how we can do it to true, because for any controller or for any operation controller, some things like post do, we don't need to do auto flash, but commit, of course, we need it, but as a default we don't need to repeat it. Just one, we will use it when we need. Bind to engine, and engine is our engine, actually is database engine. And I will create another file. I name it base. Another variable base, and this base get value from SQL x declarative. From here we want to import declarative base, and declarative base should be here to base. That means all we have already do, we create a declarative base to here, and again base dot metadata dot create all and engine. Okay, actually all of this packet that we have created is just simple code that allows us to create a just simple connection string and allow us to connect to database. Okay, now the second step from here is important to create a default database URL and a secret key. If you want, you can create from here .env virtual. Okay, again, some things like that to save this structure to this path. But if you don't want, you can just simply create it from here. Okay, now database URL. Now from optional we can here from typing import optional. You don't need to install typing package because has already installed from FastAPI. And now optional is of course is a string and as a default is none. And what we need to secret key as default, again optional. Now from here is string as well, and default we can give it, for example, secret key, but you want default, for example, in this case. Okay, now we have everything that we need. I think let's create a session database. This session help us to connect to database every time from this class. Actually, this return connection to database. It's too important. Okay, what I forgot. Database again. Okay, now dev session database, and now from here I say db session factory. That means everywhere in my project, if I call this session db, this session db help us to connect to database and read for any operation. And now I can say try, for example, db and finally, or exception, db.close. If you want, you can define exception as well. Now class config. This is just a structure, and I think we don't need it at this time. I don't want to define this command. Okay, great. Now let's continue. We have our database model schema, and it's time to define a repository. And from here I'm going to define user.pay again. Now for user we can actually, before we continue, because here in in model I have already created user class, and I need to add base, and this base is coming from API connection. That means I can say from database dot connection import base. This base, actually that was this declarative base for my class. Okay, great. We have this. Now let's to continue from repository. As I said, from here we can define a more repository as well that we need, but it's completely depend to you what you need, what you want, but sorry, and what's important for you. Okay, create our class user repository, and the first step is I want to define a constructor, and this constructor help us to connect to database without call database structure or call database anywhere. And from user repo, let me to define it and you can understand better. Init self and session says from session class. Let me to from SQL from import session, and this session we have already created a database from here, and we have used this session maker and save it in session URL, and we can use this session here as well. And we can say self dot session equals this. Okay, great. Now the second parameter, for example, we want to create our controller method. First controller should be or can be create user, and create user self, and as a default, as a parameter, can, for example, I name it sign up. Yes, completely depend to you what you want to choose and what's the major actually of this method. As you can see, is create a user, or I can change it to sign up user as you want sign up user, and need a user model as parameter. Let me to import okay, now from models import user. Sorry, from import models.user file, import user model. Okay, great. Now user model. Okay, now we have it. And the next step, for example, we can, after register or after create a new user, we can returnable that we can say you are creating a new user, and we can return a true that we will show everything is work correctly. Now is the time. Okay, now self just this session, or this session actually we are create this session from here. This session is database. That means for any operation from here we don't need to create separate connect to database, because every time we call this create user should be connect to database and do an operation. But when we create as a constructor here, this constructor help us to first connect to database, and for example on database do add. What we need to add, this sign up, this instant of user parameter class sign up. And after add is a time that we can say self.session, or you can change this name to DB if you want, but we are using repository. I prefer to have this name dot commit. And if we have exception or we have any problem, we can return false, and if everything is okay, we can return true. Okay, great. Now as you can see, we have our structure from here. And self dot, we have some error here. What's wrong? Simply for decoration space we type. No, we don't need def init self session from session class, and session actually it looks good, but okay, now I think we have some error here, and should be user model. So now let me to check here. Actually here is user model, and actually sorry, I forgot to do something else here. Before we are created field for our database, we need to create a table name, and in this case, for example, I give users. User should be the name of database. Table name should be users. Now this looks good actually. What's wrong here? Rename double case, not double, just one. Okay, and table name, it should be true actually. Okay, now let's come back here. It should be username, and now as well. And what's important to know, and from here, as you can see, we don't allow okay, maybe later. Okay, now it's better. Okay, now we have our first important controller is to create user. We can create a def another controller, for example def get user, again from self, self is our constructor. On this constructor, every times connect to database. Now we can return again self dot database or db. Now query. The first query, for example, we want to return user model. What fun? Actually, all for user model. And we can create another. For example, I don't know, get user by username. Get user username. Again, connect to self, and we want to get a user by username. That means we need a username as a parameter. We can say username is str. Why is str? Because here we create a model username as a string, and now we can return self again, self.session or db. Now it's time to define a query, and from query we given user model. From user model we want to filter what we want to filter. Again, from user model dot username, search the username as a parameter that we are, and we want to return the first. And we can define more methods as well that we need. For example, user update. I'm not sure is we need it or not, but I can show you. Update sign update sign up, for example, or update user, or because here we create the user, we can, I don't know, we can change it to update just user. Okay, again, connect to self as a parameter. For update we need the id of parameter of user. We can say id equals int, and as a parameter we need for update, actually we need a body of all fields, of all user model fields that we have here. We can say details, for example, is dict, and this dict actually is coming from class typing. From typing I can say from typing we need dict, and what we need else, we need maybe any. Okay, now it's better. Dict okay, here actually it's pretty easy to just define any, and we want to return, for example, boolean. We can that be sure is true or is not true. If we update the user correctly, we can return a true. Sorry. Now again, self.db or session query user model. For update, we can say user model, for example. Let's do filter, something like this. I'm not sure. Must be true. And from ID, where ID equals is this ID that is coming from parameter, and we can say now update default details, and after update it's too important. After do some things like commit, some things like add, some things like create or delete or update, we need to commit, we need to save it in database. But in this case we don't need any commit. And now I can show you or say you why I have do some things like that. Auto commit is false and auto flash is false, because for any operation we don't need to do commit. And says or db commit database dot session, for example, say session should be, I should just commit for this time because we don't need commit is now. The second is except if we have any problem and we don't know to, now we can return false as well. If everything is okay and try is working, we can return true. And the second, for example, we can define a def delete user if you want to delete user. Again, self, and we need an ID from user and should be int. Again, we can return boolean. And now again try, and for example user self dot database or session or db dot query, maybe you want to say user model dot filter, where user model dot id is equals our id parameter, and do delete. After that we need to say just self dot session to commit. Okay, great. I know we don't need to, because I wanted to return user. We don't need. If you want to return user after deleted, you can define a user, and here instance return true. You can return the name of the user. For example, if you want to say this user X, you are close your account or something like that. And except from here, again return false, or if everything's work correctly we can return true. Okay, great. Or we can, I don't know, because what we have actually, we have create, get user by username, update, delete. I think we have everything, and yeah, it's actually enough for this time. Okay, and let me to do something else. Okay, we have our database, we have model, schema, we have our controller. Now it's time to create our first API. I name it user.pay again. Okay, now you can see this is structure of our user. Okay, now from here, from API user, we can test our first API by creating user and just let's do and what we need to do we need to create a API router, and I think we have it from here, from FastAPI import API router. Okay, great. And at this time is okay, and let's create our first sign up. Before we are continue, and of course I need to create a router should be actually it should be just instance of router class, something like API router. Now I can just easily say, hey, add router dot method get or post, and this time for sign up we can create post method and say sorry, you can say sign up. And now is time to define a method, def sign up user, for example, and we need we don't need a request at this time. Maybe I will do something else. I create a session, this session, or just db or sys, or just this time I name it db. Okay, now session, as you know, session will be coming from what was from SQL, I think. SQL or mean import session. Okay, great. I thought I forgot it. Okay, now session equals depend. We need another from FastAPI depends. That means this session is depend on what? On session DB, and we have already defined a session DB. As you can remember, we can say from database dot connection import session DB. That should be DB or session, what you want. Now the second step is to define. Actually, before we are create, actually don't want to spend the time. We can directly, before we are starting from here, I want to do something else, and let me to check. I don't know if it's working, because I wanted to directly create create my fast API from here, from template website, but I'm not sure. Just let me to test it. Okay, I just to say username before, just gonna use username from user, should be str and is coming from, and we need to import from, and from is coming from I think that is coming from FastAPI router. I'm not sure. Okay, great. Now from what we need to add, we have this is form, and let me to copy this line for 3 times, and username, email, for example, and password. Okay, great. Now let's continue from here. Just what we need is we need connect to database from sign up, for example, sign up. We need a repository at the first. That means repository, and repository I can say from repository.user import user import user repository, and from here just user repository instant. I create the instant from repository class, and here is coming our database DB. That means for any repository, this parameter actually is session itself is constructor of user repository. We have create a constructor from here that every times we didn't want to define connect to database actually for every operation or controller. Now from here I just create the instant, and this parameter actually is constructor parameter, and that means every operation, when I call every operation from here, is automatically connect to database. And now what we need is, and before we are starting, we are suppose we have database, we can check if user exists. Before we are sign up any user, we can say db user equals user repository that get user by username, and this username is coming from form, actually from here. Okay, and maybe need a space here, and now we can say if db user, if return any db user, this operation, this get a user from by username, as you know, and you can see or return a user from username. If we have user db user, then at this time return none, but I will change that because of course we don't need to do some things like that. We can check, and the user from front end must to be sure. For example, we can return any other message. Something's username is not valid, for example, something like that. And what's important now, it's time to create a sign up. We can say user from user model. It's time to import model. From models dot user import user model, and user model we can send a parameter mail to, and we create actually we create an instance from our user model class at the first, and just from user model structure we want to create an instance. And now just from here we have username equals username, and of course password equals password. Now after creating instance, I name it sign up, for example. We can say, we can check success. That means sign up repository or user repository dot create user. As you can see, this create a user get an instance of class user model. That means I can say sign up actually is the instance of user model. Okay, now we can check success. We can say if success, if create a user in our database, we want to return at this time for example create user successfully, and else I want to say rise. And if you don't know, or if you didn't work with exception from FastAPI, you can know rise exception is coming from FastAPI, and we can say just easy rise status code, for example, at the first, but we need to define it at, of course, at the first. And what we have error here should be worked parameter rise exception, not exception http. Let me at the first add it to FastAPI because it's coming from here. HTTP exception status code, for example 401, and details should be credentials not correct. course. And I don't know why we have some error from here, because we have already defined it. Okay, maybe I need to check. I'm sure. Oh, sorry. Rise, something like this. Okay, it's just always. This is like okay now. Now we have our API. Now let's come back to main page. From here, we need to do a little change, and from here I just want to import router from API. Just fast API instance, for example. What's important here, from API import, user at this time, and this user, and from what we need is from database dot connection import base, of course, and we need engine because we need to create a middleware engine for our database. That means after run our project should be able to connect to database. And what I need else, I need to from here maybe routers. Now we can say app include router from user dot router, and prefix should be, for example, user. That means for any API sign up, for example, we are globally define user here as a prefix. Now I have it. What we need is, and we need to create a DB engine, and this DB engine should be connected to PostgreSQL. That metadata that create all bind engine. That's pretty easy. Okay, great. Now it looks good. Let's do check if we have any error. No, I just want to open it. I think we have some error. Okay, now we can check what's wrong. Mapper class model user could not assemble primary key of mapper users. Okay, now let's go to model user. As I can see, we have some error here. What's wrong? Rename it to no. we don't want to rename any name. Okay, just I'm not sure, maybe this looks good. And what's wrong here? Two blanks not found. Class user model. User model and equals to, and primary key. Primary key should be true here. AnyQ. It looks actually good. Okay, now we have another error. But what's wrong? Actually, I didn't understand. And path prefix must be a start. That means if I come back to main, should be start with here. As I can see, now looks better. Let's come back. As you can see, we have our post method, and this will be our prefix user and the name of method, sign up user, and the second endpoint. From here we have here sign up. And now let's do check here. For example, users medi at gmail.com, and again medi, and create a user successfully. That means everything is okay and is connected to database. Create a database, create a table for us, and we have created a table, FastAPI DB. Now let me to check from schemas and from collection, or from table, sorry. As you can see, we have created table. This table names users. If I select script, okay, now as you can see we have users, but what's not, as you can see we have unhashed password. It's not, we must do something else. We must do hash password. We need to do username from here. Okay, now let's to continue from here. It's great at the first. If I try again, username is not valid because this username is exist and we don't want to have a same or repeat username in our database. Okay, sign up looks good. Now I just want to do something secure. From here I create a file, I name it secure.py, and from here I just want to work with token. What we need to do is just from here create a data JWT secret. This is, that will be secret key. Okay, I thought I write. Okay, now JWT secret. Okay, as a default, and we need to define an algorithm for our JWT. Algorithm, and this algorithm should be, actually there are more different algorithms from JWT. You can find all algorithms in website from JWT, but as a default I want to use IS256 256. No. Okay, great. And the second is access token expire, for example minute. It should be help you, and 3 minutes actually. And token, I think I wrote tokens true. Okay, now we are going to create a first instance for our secret class. I name it PWD context, should be coming from crypto context, and this crypto context come from here. Let's do pip install passlib. Okay, already is installed. That means from passlib import crypto passlib dot context, I think, import crypto context. Okay, now we are going to create the instance from crypto context and take a schema, and schema for this structure should be BCR epsilon P. I think we need to install it as well. I think, if I'm not sure, pip list, I will check if it's there or not there. Passlib. And okay, we can test actually pip install. Okay, it's already exist. Okay, great. That means it's okay. Now we need to install the predict to auto. It's just as parameter, you don't worry about this. And the second step, and this important step, is to authenticate name. I name it to scheme, for example, and it's coming from auth. We need to add it from FastAPI security, from FastAPI.security import auth.password beer should be here. Okay, auth password beer, and take a token at the first, token URL, and this token URL is user sign in. And what's important actually you need to know, at this time we don't have any endpoint sign it in point, and I will tell you it later. And the second is, for example, cookie name, and this cookie name should be, for example, should be Authorization as a default name for our cookies. Now let's start to create our first token. Now div create a token, div create access token from user. This user should be coming from sign in. At the first I just create our method, and we need to define a payload. Now this payload should be username, and from user is coming username. We need a email maybe, and this email coming from user dot email. What we need else? We need to define a role, and is coming from user dot role dot value, and I'm not sure. Okay, now is active or is not active. Is active is coming from user that is active. Okay, great. Now we have, and we have it. Now after that, let's create our token by call JWT, and this JWT come from class rules pip install rules. Okay, successfully installed. That means here from class import JWT, and now here from JWT in encode, what do we need for parameter? We need a parameter for payload parameter, as you can see, and the second is k we do need, and we need an algorithm for our token. We have already created an algorithm. We can call this algorithm, and actually the k is the name of this algorithm. That means k is algorithm, and sorry, and I think algorithm is JWT secret, and algorithm is algorithm. Okay, now it looks better. And now if we have an error, of course we need to manage it. From exception, we can open it from FastAPI, import HTTP exception, and now we can say exception or just simple exception that is coming from, as a default, come from FastAPI as EX, and print or just return as you want. You can check it actually when we create print. If you have error, we can manage it and check everything. And rise EX error. Actually, before we are returning, we can print it here to command line, and to be sure why we have some error here. I forgot to do double session. Okay, we are create our token, and after create a token is important, of course, to create a verify token. Verify token. Okay, to do that we need to create a new method, def verify token, and as a default get a token. Now it's time to verify token just by create the instance or create a variable for JWT dot decode our token, because here from encode we have created token. Now it's time to encode, decode, and open our token, and key of this token is JW, this case JW secret is actually this secret. JW secret is the key of this token. From here can understand to open token, and after that of course we need to return payload, and if we have exception as well, we can manage it to rise exception as you want. You can do something like this. Okay, now we are create token, verify token. Actually, in this token here in security folder, you can define 3 different directory. The one directory for token, one directory for hash password, and one file, Python file for token, or one Python file for hash password, or one file for authenticate user. But I want to add all these methods here in this secret file, but if you want, you can use separate. Actually, if you have a big project, you can define a separate file. It's pretty defined to you. Now let's continue from here. Password hash, because we are from here, as you can see, we are save password is readable in database. We don't want to have something like this. Just if and get password hash. Now password is a parameter, and return and pwd context dot hash password. It's pretty easy. And now it's time to password verify. Now if you want, actually for everything or for every methods you are allowed to improve it. You can write what you need in depend to your project, or depends to your request or what you want. Now dev verify password. Now we have two parameters. At the first, the user password that will be typing from body, for example, and plain, I name it plain password, for example. And the second password is hash password that has already saved in database. We can actually, from verified password, we will compare two passwords together. And hashed password. Okay. After that, we want to say return pwd context, this time not hashed, verify our plain password and hashed password. Okay, great, it looks good. Now let's come back to user, and now from here, this time I want to change some things. This time I want to say before save password. From here we are, because we are creating instance of class to save a password, I can say this time from security dot secure import get password hash, and get password hash should be password. That means at the first call this method, hash my password and save it. Let's do check it, and I need to change this name. Okay, now I'm coming back. If I run my project, you can see we have hashed this password. Password is hashed. And now for logging, if we are create a second router, that should be router.post, and this time sign in. Now we can just say what we need, div, the name of method, sign in, for example, sign up user, on this time sign in user, and as a parameter what we need to do at the first, of course, we need a database. We need to connect to database as well, and actually we need all from here. We can copy and paste, but this time we can decide user should be sign in as email or username. We can say everything should be work with username. Now let's come down. Now this time user repository again. We can copy all of this, because before signing we must be sure this user is exist. If not exists, it's not allowed to log in, of course. And if db user not exist, if not user, then username or password is not valid. If username password is true, we can verify password. We can verify password, but how we can verify password? Get a password. This time verify password. Okay. Now verify password. What we need to verify? Of course, we need to pass two parameters, as you can see. This that needs password that is coming from user website, and the second come from database, because should be compared together. I'm going to actually from here, from db user, because db user, if user exists, return all user to db user. We can say at the first we have db user dot password that is coming from database, and from here this password that is coming from form. Okay, if is exist and if it's correct, now we can create a token of course. Token create token. We have already created a method, just create access token. Create access token from div user, because access token get a parameter user and will be save all user information in different field or this indict, and create a token from this information. Okay, now return token. And what's important to know is pretty important. You can see we are define a token URL, and this URL address should be 100% to be this URL. If you don't have a same name, because this URL save this token to here, to here. If you don't use the same name, it will not work it, of course. And now let's do it again. This time login, post sign in. Okay, I will create again new user, magic3 at gmail.com and magic3. Okay, we'll create it, and now it's time to sign in. I take tree and made it tree. If I do, you can see we are return our token 200. We have token. Great. That means everything is working correctly. The second step is to verify token. It's important things to. Now I'm going to do something else from here. Router that get these times we want to verify token, and this parameter at the first we need to send a parameter to sorry. Of course, should be some things like this, I think. You can check it, it's fine, no problem. And now is time to define a new method, and I name it div, for example, login user or verify user or just verify user. Again, we need connect to database, and we need a token to verify token. Now let me copy here user connect to data. This is our controller, this is a user controller. And now what we need to do from payload should be verify token, and paste this token that is coming from this method, and from this token I want to get a username. Username equals payload dot get user name. Now as you can see from here, payload, from here we are return a token with this information. That means I allow to get every one of these payload. From here I get the username, and now from this username I can check more information. I can do more actually. For example, and let's do at the first get a user by username. Name it db user, and user repository that get user by username. I have username from payload, and now we can check more. I can say if not username, if there are not any username, then rise HTTP exception, for example. Status code should be 409, not found. Details einfach here. That was the first for before verify token, and the second we can say if, for example, db user dot is active equals true, then return, for example, we can check with this token. If I have already said we want to be sure user is true, actually user is active. If user is active, then we want to verify token. Actually, with this verify token, we want to be sure that user is active. Actually, this depends to you what is the goal or purpose of token, what you want to do, what you need. Actually, you can manage, you can check everything that you want. For example, in this case, I verify token to be sure user is active, and we can say your account has been already active with, and db user is active equals true. That means if it's not active, then to do that, make it true, and db dot commit, and response and redirect response from starlet dot response import redirect okay, redirect response, redirect response to, after do that, redirect user after token, redirect to sign in, user sign in page, for example, user sign in page, and at the end return response. Okay, great. Now again, let's do verify one user. We have already, okay, again, let's do login at the first, made it 3, okay, we get a token, and token, after verify token, we want to do user to active. That means from here at this time is not active, is false. Now as you can see is false. Okay, now we send the token. Okay, we have some error, method not allowed. Why? Why db is equals to true, db commit response redirect response to, oh sorry, maybe URL, I'm not sure, but again, okay, your account has been already activated because I did it 2 more times. Let's come back, made it 3, account is not active. Now account is true, account is active. The user allowed to log in. Okay, great. Okay, now it's better. We are continue to, as you can see at this time, everyone allowed to log into this page, and we don't want to do something that we want to authorization and authorization user. From Secure, I want to define another method. We have until now create token, verify token, password hash, and verify password hash. And now this time, what we need, I just want to do authentication with two different ways. The first way, diff get current user from token, and now get a token. Token should be str, of course. You don't need to type str, but if you want, actually, sorry, we need it to, because we need to define a dependence, and should to define it. The depends is coming from FastAPI, from FastAPI import depends. And now we want to say auto scheme, that this scheme is the address of our token URL. That means it will be sure, and it will be from here every times when we are logging, we are save automatically token in this address. That means we are save token to here, and now from here that will be take address automatically from these methods. After sign in, will be take this token and will be verify this token. User verify token. If verify is okay, and if we have user, then we can return user. Then the same way we can define for get the user from session, or name it cookie again, but this time the cookies save token not here in this address, and will be save it in browser, and we can get it from request, and this request is coming from FastAPI. Okay, now request. No, okay, great. That this time we don't want to return user model, verify token, and from user model we can get from, I can say, actually this is important. I will show you. We have two different way verify token. We get response cookies get and response cookies set. That means here we can say after sign up, after sign up we can after sign in we can save cookies anywhere. One way is access create the token, we are safe here, and we can save on our token as well on our session. Just let me to response equals response. This response is coming again from class FastAPI request and response. Okay, now I can say this response dot set cookies. What we need to set in our cookies? Of course, as you can see, need a key. This key is coming from script. This is our security cookies name. As you can see, that means I create security. Okay, I forgot to do or just security. Can change this name because I type it not true. Where is rename? Okay, it's not matter. Okay, now from security dot secure imports, what do we need to import? Cookies names. Cookies name. Now k is cookie name, and the second parameter is value. Value should be token, because we want to save this token from, as you can see, two different way: save token in cookies or save token in here in your auth schema. And token, and the third what we need, and for example HTTP, it should be true on expire of token after 100 minutes. And after that, this time not token, this is the same way. We can say cookie name equals token, and we can say token type is bearer. Okay, now it's great. We are save token in two different way. First time here for get a token from token, get a user from token, or get a user from cookies. And get a user from cookies is now this time we can say token equals request dot cookies dot get from cookies name, because we have saved cookies here, and from these cookies we can get a token, and from token we can, and just if token, if there are any token, we can say user verify token, and then return user. Just pretty easy. Okay, sorry, it's a little night and I speak a little not loud. And what's wrong here? User verified token and return token. It looks good. What's wrong? Token request user model. Okay, cookie get cookie name. If token exists, user verified token. User model got a dict. Oh, of course. User model accepted to request from request, and then we have user model from user model class, of course, and if token, if you have token user return user. Is there any error here? No. Okay, great. Don't worry. Looks good. Actually, I can close our token from here. Now I'm coming back because we are going to start with Jinja. Pip install. I think it's Jinja2 template pay, something like that. Jinja2. You can install this template. Pip install Jinja2. Okay, it's already installed. And now what we need to do, I need to define a static file, and it's pretty easy. Just okay, great. Now here from FastAPI templating, I'm going to import Jinja2 template. Actually, we need to install Jinja2 template as well. Pip install, of course, install pip install should be already installed, I think. Let me to do some things. Pip freeze all in requirement.txt. Okay, now you can later download this file from GitHub. And what we need else? Okay, now after that I am going to static file. Okay, we are going to create an instance app dot mount static and static file, and is coming from static here from FastAPI dot static file, import static file. Now static files as a parameter need directory, of course. Static should be static and what we need else, and HTML should be true. And the name is static as well. Okay, what's wrong here? What's important now as well is to define a template for our project, for our website. Template and from JWT template, I call this class and give a directory constructor. Directory should be templates folder. Actually, we have create two files, two instance or two instance. And the first is static for our custom CSS, JavaScript, and something else as custom styles. And we have templates folder for our HTML files. That means we need to have here, we need to have a directory with this name, static, and of course we need a directory with this name, template. But I try to save a time. I have already this template and the statics file. I just want to copy paste here from here, and I'm not sure if I can copy that. Let me to find this from here, statics. Okay, it's not possible. Copy this path, cd here, of course not. I'm not sure how, where I have already. Okay, pd not ls cd def ls from FastAPI Personal website maybe. Okay, looks good. this template file. Okay, maybe new open model settings, open in. Okay, I will do something else. Why I don't need it copy paste here? Okay. And I'm going to local, and from here I have created FastAPI web app. I tried to copy paste here. I'm not sure this time it will work. Okay, static and static and template. Static is there, but I can see template folder. Maybe. Oh, okay, sorry. Okay, now I don't know. How can I refresh this file? Okay, static is here. Our static files for our project, and we have template. Okay, great. Now I want to do some actually I have already told you the important things. I just want to copy paste some other stuff that we save times. Okay, for our sign up we can just from API user, I'm going to copy paste these 3 steps, and request is coming from FastAPI response request, of course, and template is coming from instance of template. We need to create a template. Now template, as you can see, that means user template should be work. Now let me to open localhost. At this time is FastAPI. Okay, and now user, for example, sign up. Okay, great. Now as you can see, we have our sign up page. Contact must not be forked, that must not be forked as well, and sign in. We have sign in as well. Okay, great, looks good. And as you can see, it's not complete. I just here create the instance, as you can see, from template Jinja, and now from here I'm going to call create the instance of template, and I say if I get sign up, we have post sign up and we have get sign up. I want to get it from here. It will call this home page as well. From main we can actually change it, because as a default when I call localhost I see this message. We can say, because I have an instance of template here as well, we can just say template return template dot template response, go to base dot html and return request request. something like that. Now let's do check. As you can see, it's working correctly. Now as a default we have here login, user sign up. I have already member, go to sign in. And now for contact event, I will do some stuff here. As you can see, we need models, we need a schema, and model schema and repository, not anything else. And I just want to again copy paste all that we need to here. For model, I have model, contact and event models. If I, as you can see, just simple event class, and contact should be ID, email, title and description. And database connection, database says I have some error here. Why databases? Because it's data bus hab schon geschrieben. Okay, now I don't know how can I rename it here, because I have already used Visual Studio Code, and as I said, this time I just wanted to, okay, let me to, okay, again, egal, it's not important. Data, okay, now for here and for here. Okay, I think I hate it. And after add a model, and we need a schema as well. I can copy schemas as well for contact and user to schema. If I open it, you can see event, just simple is like for that, and contact as well. What we need else is repository or controller for both of them, and I just want to copy this time 3 things. Repository, as you can see in repository I have add another stuff is email verify. This email verify will be take a token and will be save this token. Actually it's the same way we are here. From here we are verify token to account, the user account should be active. Now we will do some things from email. We will, after sign up, we will send an email to user, and we redirect user to this path, and after that account should be active. Some things like here. Okay, now let me to check contact. Okay, now it will not be working because from here we need add 3 route, route user, route for contact for about and route for what we have contact event. Okay, now from API. Now as you can see, for API we need to, I just want to copy paste it because it's taken more time. I think I was a little slow and I recorded a video about 2 hours. I think it should be boring for you. Now let's again to API. I copy this 3 API as well. To API. Okay, now I can user event contact and about okay, great. We have contact, we have about, and we have event. Okay, very great. Looks good, I think. Let's come back, login. Contact, we have some error here. Database, no database. Okay, because I write some, of course, I don't know why I type it not true. It should be data bus and model.user, and from security I have write some error by I have security without a. Okay, sorry about that. And I couldn't to solve it. I don't know where is the rename here. And okay, I should change. I should check it out. And now again, user event. Of course, I don't need anything here. Okay. It's just simple that I have call a get method, for example, to going to event page. Event is default event, and as well from here database. No, again, just simple. It's the same way that we have already did for user. Actually, it's not meet some other stuff. For example, I check some successful page or I change. If you see this code, you will be understand everything though, I'm sure. Okay, contact, we have contact, we have event. As you can see, we don't need to log in to event because we have no create any account, because at the first we need to log in, and we need about as a default. As you can see, that will be. Now let me to log in, create a new account, for example medi4, or let me to give it true, and again medi4. And create a user successfully. You can change it to redirect to home page or anywhere that you need. And let me to check. Okay, medi4 is created, and of course I should be take an email. No, after create. Okay, I think I didn't here I didn't send any email. Let's do create it as well, because from here after create a user, you can say send the email verify, and it will be coming from email verify import from repository. Actually we have repository, we have already repository, but from user, from import, or not import, sorry, from repository dot verify email, import email message, or not email verify. And now we can say email verify dot send email verify. We need to verify token. Let me to be sure, because I don't have any token here. Create token and create user. This is create user, and where is create token? Okay, because I don't create any token here, of course we need token, and create access token, from sign up, from this user information, email, username and password, email, username and password. From this user I will be create a token, sign up, access token, and then I can verify this token. Okay, now let me change it to 5. I think should not be forked because I have the same information here. I do some things else. Now let me delete it. Delete from user. Okay, successfully. Now user script select. Okay, is empty. Okay, Medi, just Medi. Okay, we have some error from email identity and it should not find it. Why? Because okay, now as you can see, create account successfully, and you're returned back to login. Now I should be taking email. As you can see, account should be verified. After click of this mail, we will get this mail structure from here. You can define your styles or CSS style that you need. And as you can see, if I do select, I have an account, and after click after this email link, user will be active, and now allow to login. If I type media and media, okay, we can get a token. You can redirect this page as well to home page. And now if I go to event, secure page, welcome to home page, you are logged successfully. Hi, emboss of test, welcome to this page. But if I delete this session, clear now, and try to access to event file, as you can see, I need to log in. I don't allow to see this page. Actually, this video, I hope you enjoyed this tutorial and this video, and let me to know if you like this. I tried, actually I didn't know that's taken more time, because when I typing for myself, it's take just 1 hour, but when I try to create a video tutorial, it's something else. And at this time, I will be create a second video, and we will talk about session. But this repository from GitHub is open. Actually, you can improve it. We can create logout, login, remember me from here. You have session here, and you can do from here, from here you have this session and 2 different ways to authenticate user. You can do everything that you need, but just you need to know and learn more about request cookies. And I will be create a second video, and I will show you how you can do login, log out, remember me, change username, dashboard panel, on everything's more about security. And because our application is not 100% or it's not completely secure, we can do more and more for this application. But what's important to me that you enjoyed this video, this tutorial, and you are allowed to improve this tutorial. As I said, GitHub is open, and you can do pull request, and I will check it. And have a nice day, and be soon. Actually, to next video. Bye.